It was the kind of Halloween night that smells like wet leaves and old candy. The streets glowing orange under dim porch lights. Kids in plastic masks running in laughing clusters. I lived alone then, in a small house on the corner of Maple Drive. The kind of place that felt too big and too quiet after dark. I'd filled a bowl with candy earlier that evening. The good stuff, not the cheap hard candies nobody wants. Most years, I'd sit on the couch, half watching some old horror movie while waiting for the occasional knock at the door. But that night was quieter than usual. Maybe it was the light drizzle that had started around sunset, slicking the asphalt and making everything feel a bit more somber. Maybe it was the fact that most of my neighbors had moved away over the years, replaced by empty houses and for sale signs. The neighborhood was aging, and with it, the sound of children's laughter on Halloween had started to fade. Around 8:30, there was a knock. It wasn't the playful, enthusiastic pounding of a group of kids, but a slow, almost polite tap, tap, tap. It was so quiet, I almost missed it. I paused the movie, got up, and walked to the front door. When I opened it, a little girl stood there. She was maybe 7, wearing a homemade fairy costume. Her wings were made of crinkled paper, and she had a tinsel crown that was slightly askew. Her dress looked like it had been cut from an old bedsheet, simple and a little sad. She held out a small orange bucket shaped like a pumpkin, the kind you get at the dollar store. "Trick or treat," she said softly. Her voice was what I noticed first. It didn't match her size. It was calm, steady, and far too careful for a child on a sugar high. There was no excitement, no impatience, just a flat statement. I smiled, though it felt a little awkward. "Happy Halloween," I said, reaching into my bowl and dropping a handful of chocolates and sour gummies into her bucket. She didn't move, didn't say thank you or even glance at the candy. She just looked at me, unblinking, studying my face as if she were trying to remember something important. Then she said, "You always hide the chocolate behind the kettle." My heart stopped, just stopped. That was something my little sister Sarah used to say word for word. When we were kids, I'd sneak candy from the kitchen after my mom put it away, and Sarah, my little shadow, would always find my hiding spot. She died when she was 9, a lifetime ago. I hadn't heard that phrase in 20 years. I forced a laugh, a dry, scratchy sound. "You must have heard that from someone," I said, my voice shaky. "Kids talk, right?" The girl tilted her head, her tinsel crown catching the dim porch light. "You said it, so I wouldn't eat it all at once." A genuine chill, cold and sharp, crept up my spine. My eyes darted past her, searching for any sign of parents waiting on the sidewalk. But the street was empty, completely silent, except for the wind rustling the wet leaves on the ground. There were no minivans idling, no other porch lights on, just darkness. "Where's your mom or dad?" I asked, trying to keep my voice even. She smiled faintly, a small, knowing expression that didn't belong on a child's face. "They went to talk to Mr. Harris. He's giving his candy to the moon." Mr. Harris was my next-door neighbor. He'd passed away in June. His house had been dark and empty ever since. I swallowed hard, the lump in my throat feeling like a stone. "That's nice," I managed to say. The words sounded hollow and absurd. She looked down at her bucket, then back up at me. Her eyes were strange. In the dim light, they weren't blue or brown or green, just a flat, reflective gray, like polished stones, mirroring the porch light like two pieces of glass. "Do you remember me?" she asked, her voice dropping a little. My mouth went dry. I felt a primal urge to slam the door, but my feet were glued to the floor. "Of course not," I managed to whisper. "You're just a trick-or-treater. You're just out having fun." She took a single deliberate step forward, crossing the threshold onto my doormat. "You never said goodbye." That voice wasn't a little girl's voice anymore. It was lower, deeper, almost as if two people were speaking at once, an echo layered over the original sound. My blood ran cold. "I think it's time you go home," I whispered. my voice barely audible. She tilted her head again. That same eerie, unnatural movement. "I can come in," she said, her voice now a soft, chilling invitation. I always did. At that exact moment, the porch light above me flickered. Once, twice. Then it went out, plunging the porch and the street into pitch-black darkness. I was completely blind for a second, my heart hammering against my ribs. When my eyes adjusted, she wasn't there. Gone, vanished. Just the faint, receding sound of small footsteps slow, fading, moving down the silent street. I slammed the door, fumbled with the deadbolt, and clicked the chain into place. I ran through the house, turning on every single light, flooding every corner with a desperate, artificial brightness. I told myself it was just a prank. Some cruel, elaborate joke. Some kid repeating stories she'd overheard from who knows where. But my hands were shaking too hard to believe it. The rest of the night was dead silent. I didn't hear another knock, not another footstep. I didn't dare open the door again. The next morning, after a sleepless night, I stepped outside to get the newspaper. There was something sitting on my doormat, single, bright orange candy wrapper, folded perfectly into a tiny, neat square. My hands trembled as I picked it up. When I unfolded it, there were 2 words scrawled in a child's messy, familiar handwriting. "Goodbye, Midge." Midge. That was my sister's nickname for me. No one else ever used it. Not my parents, not my friends. No one. Not once in 20 years. I still live in that house. I've kept that candy wrapper in a small box in the drawer beside my bed. Every Halloween, I think about turning off all the lights, leaving the candy bowl in the cupboard, and just pretending I'm not home. But a part of me, the part that still remembers the sound of small footsteps and laughter in the dark canned tea, help it. I always leave one piece of chocolate behind the kettle, just in case she comes back.
It started with the wrong number, or at least, that's what I thought. It was a Wednesday night in early November, cold enough that the windows fogged from the inside, and the street outside was nothing but a thin line of mist under the lamplight. I lived alone back then, in a 1-bedroom apartment above a laundromat, the kind of place that always smelled faintly of detergent and dust. I was half asleep on the couch when my phone buzzed. 12:17 a.m. Unknown number. I hesitated, then picked up. "Hello?" At first, there was silence, then a faint crackle like an old radio, and then a voice. It was soft and eerily familiar. "Is this for 917? I frowned. Yeah, but who is this?" The voice paused. "You moved," it said. "Why did you move?" I sat up straight. Something about that tone made my chest tighten. It wasn't angry. It was hurt, disappointed. "Look, I think you have the wrong number," I said, trying to sound firm, but my own voice felt thin. There was a long breath on the other end, a drawn-out sigh that seemed to travel through time. "Then you said you'd wait for me by the phone." I froze. My blood ran cold. That's what I used to say years ago when my fiancée, Leela, was in the hospital. We had this little ritual. She'd call me every night before she went to sleep just to hear my voice. It was our thing. But she never came home. The line hiss was static, and a whisper cut right through it. "I couldn't find you." My eyes shot to the phone screen. The number had no name, no location, just those 4 digits for 917 faintly glowing in the dark. "Who asterisk is asterisk this?" I asked again, my voice cracking this time, barely a whisper. But the voice changed. It softened, like it was drifting away on the wind. "You left the light on," it said. "You always left the light on for me." And then, the line went dead. I sat there for a long time, my heart pounding against my ribs. The hum of the refrigerator, the faint drip of the kitchen tap, every sound in the room suddenly felt alive, like it was watching me. I tried to reason with myself. It was just some cruel prank, some sick joke. But when I checked my call log, there was nothing. No record of the call. Just the time, 12:17 a.m. highlighted in gray. A ghost in the machine. That night, I couldn't bring myself to sleep in the dark. I left the hallway light on, just in case. The next evening, I came home late from work, exhausted and still on edge from the night before. The building's front door was locked, just as it always was. But when I reached my apartment, my own door was slightly open. Not forced, not broken, just ajar. A silent invitation. I pushed it open, my hand trembling. I stepped inside. Everything looked normal. My coat was still on the chair where I'd left it. The mail was on the table. But then I saw it. On the kitchen counter sat my old landline phone. The clunky, beige one I'd thrown out years ago when I switched to a cell. It was plugged into the wall, and the little line light was blinking a steady, insistent red. I walked towards it like I was in a dream. My hands were shaking so much I could barely pick up the receiver. It was warm, as if someone had just been holding it. I brought it to my ear, and there was a voice. Soft, broken, whispering through a sea of static. Don't hang up this time. The air in the room felt instantly colder. I could hear breathing on the line slow, steady, and far too real. It was right there, in my ear. I whispered her name, a question I was terrified to ask. Leela. Silence. A heavy, suffocating silence. Then, almost like a sigh, the voice returned. You never said goodbye. The line went dead again. When I looked down, my blood turned to ice. The phone cord was cut, sliced clean through, right in the middle. It's been 5 years since then. I moved out of that apartment, hoping to leave whatever was there behind. But some things follow you. Every year, in early November, right around 12:17 a.m., my phone rings. Just once. It's always an unknown number. No ID. Just a single, sharp vibration in the dark. I never answer. I'm too afraid of what I might hear, or who might be on the other end. But every single time it happens, I get up, and I leave the light on in the hallway, just in case she's still out there, trying to find her way home. Thank you for listening to my story. If you enjoyed this, and want to hear more tales from the shadows, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. It lets me know you're out there, listening in the dark. Stay safe, and until next time, maybe leave a light on.